Hi, I'm Evan with Evan's Oasis, and I'm your guide to this rapidly evolving technological world. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use Smart Connections Visualizer, which is essentially a plugin companion to the Smart Connections plugin within Obsidian. And for those of you who don't know Obsidian, I highly recommend you download it. It's an excellent note-taking app, and especially with the Smart Connections plugin by Brian Pretro. It is a way to essentially link and connect notes and blocks of your notes by relevance automatically using AI without you having to manually tag things. And so ideally you'd be able to find connections within your notes and things you've discussed that you've never found possible. And so that's part of the reason why I'm creating this visualization, to make it easier to find these connections, as well as make it easier to interact, have less data entry, and find connections much easier than you otherwise would just having a list of text. So without further ado, let's go crack at it. So as you can see here, I'm not the best note taker. I have some just crappy notes here. The reason why I'm creating this app or this plugin is because I'm not, along with the help of Brian Petro, of course, working with the Smart Connections. And so as you can see here, I can essentially just look at different notes, and the different notes I look at will show the connections view. And so this is pretty similar to the list view that you might see if you're familiar with Smart Connections, where in this case, any notes or nodes that are closer to whatever it is the context you're looking at, in this case home, they are sorted by relevance. So as you can see here, if I hover over this is a section that has like 80.9, and then if I go further out, you'll see that 54.6. So that's a relevance that's much lower. And so I can go through and I can toggle through the different areas or the different nodes similar to Smart Connections as well. This might be just a better way to visualize it. However, in the near future, there will be a lot better opportunities to interact and use the nodes. Ideally, the end goal will be you barely have to type anything at all, especially with Smart Connections, and can just inference nodes here and do whatever magic you want to find these new ideas and new things that you haven't explored yet. And so here we have a graph settings, and if you guys aren't aware, this is very similar to the graph view that we already have in Obsidian's, except it works with Smart Connections. So in the filters tab here, you see that we have like a minimum relevance and connection type. Minimum relevance is that there's all these nodes or notes that you already have, but you don't want to show all of them because theoretically like everything's connected in some way or some lower relevance. So in this case, only things with 50% or higher relevance will show. But if this is too many, I want to condense it. I only want to look at the things that are a lot more closer. I can change this on like 73 or what have you, and you'll see the amount reduces. And again, whichever ones are closer still are the ones that have more relevance to what you're looking at. And with this, I can do connection type to note or block. And so block is essentially anything that you've put as sections within your notes. And then you can also just go through notes. So obviously home version 1, version 2 are the closest ones based on this relevance. So I can click on it like so. That's one example. Other examples here are other settings within display, so I can change the node side. But before we do that, I'll just reduce the amount so it just looks a little cooler here. So I can change the node size. As you can see, there's like sometimes these are cut off. These labels are cut off because it could be just too much text. So I have the ability to change how much text you hide or show. You can change the link label size. So the link label size is essentially this. As you can see, I highlight, it shows the link label right there. It's 64.6. So like I can go ahead and change that to something higher, and you'll see it, much bigger. There's node label size, of course, that you can change as well. Min length, link thickness. So I really like this because even though you have proximity, especially in larger networks, it might be something that is, harder to see if there's a lot of nodes. Well, there's also this min and max link thickness. And so with this, you can change the max and the min length, and you'll not only see based on proximity, but based on the thickness of the links, how closely certain connections are with each other. Eventually, though, you'll be able to change any of these variables. Like you can have the width not by link type. You can have the link based on how many connections are to this node, things like that. There's all these different ways that I'm going to, implement later that will allow you to change how you want to see anything visualized. There'll be relationships between nodes, whether it's contradictory, not contradictory, anything like that. I don't want to take too much away from this. And there's also the text fade threshold, which is how far you zoom out or how far you zoom in. Does the text start coming more visible? And this is also something for, networks that might be bigger that you just don't want to see all the text for. And then lastly, here in the settings, we have like the repel force and link force. So repel force is how much the links or the nodes try to repel from each other. This makes it for especially larger networks to make it easier to see. Link force is a similar concept where the lower the link force, the easier it is to repel. These kind of interact with each other. And then link distance. Essentially, all these links are catered to the distance of their proximity or how relevant they are to the node. And so this will like just proportionally increase and decrease the distance of that. It might be more useful for bigger networks. I have to get to that point, but that's what I plan to do with this. And the end goal where it doesn't matter what I'm doing in terms of note taking or note making. The end goal is if I can just do recording and talk. I am working on another plugin called Smart Transcriptions where I can just say whatever I want. It'll create a transcription, create a summary of what I said, and that alone would be able to create networks and create all these kinds of visualizations that we're seeing here. This is going to be a lot more advanced, a lot more in depth with what we're going to be working with, but this is just a very first version. I fundamentally believe this will completely change the world in our decision making. Unfortunately, you can't really see it as of yet, but this is just the beginnings of what I feel will be changing how we go about decision making, how we go about thinking, because I will also include a time aspect of this as well, where you can see a timeline view of how all these notes and ideas started coming together. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. This is just a simple demo of what you can do with this visualizer right now. I do find it better in lieu of the list view that is in Smart Connections, but there will be more that you can do, and the goal is going to be as limited amount of typing as possible and as maximum amount of discovery and decision making as possible. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. This is the first iteration of the visualizer plugin, and I will be adding more and more as we go along, and I'm excited to hear the feedback that any of you guys have. So thank you guys very much. Please install this when you can. It's available right next to the Smart Connections plugin if you look for in the community browsing. Knock yourselves out, guys. I'm excited. Thank you.